All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Miltrick Media. I am your host, Miltrick, and I am here with the one and only Donny Teachout, Big Papa Don. He hosts and runs the table open mic at the Hop Shoppe in Staten Island, New York, at Big Papa Don, Donny Teachout, and table open mic. How's it going? Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, man. This is great.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So how you feeling? How's everything been?
Everything's been pretty great, man. It's been a busy year. Thank God after all these crazy shutdowns and everything else, finally got to kind of pick up and start working again, doing things again. And that's, I love that.
Yeah, that's the best. So when did you first, let's talk about the tabletop open mic at Hop Shoppe. When did that first start? When did you start hosting that event at the Hop Shoppe?
The table started almost 5 years ago. I think, July will be 5 years ago. I started that then, and the way I got it was kind of a funny story. So I used to bounce at a place called Play Sports Bar. It's not even there anymore. It's now District or whatever it is. And I used to be in the back porch where all the problems were because I don't know if you notice I'm a slightly large man, and they had me watch the backyard, and I used to stand in the backyard, and I used to joke that I was going to put a couch back there because I used to just counsel people back there, and I was making everybody laugh. And the owner, one of the owners at the Hop Shoppe came to me, and I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this thing, but
You always say what I want.
yeah, he was like, Donnie, you're fucking hysterical. And I said,
Yeah.
thank you, man. I appreciate that. He goes, is it true you used to rap? I said, still, mess around a bit. He goes, you want to host an open mic? And I was like, yeah, sure.
That's
And I had
awesome.
done it years ago. For anybody that knows Staten Island from way back when, at a place called the Muddy Cup.
Oh, yeah.
So, before it was like the full cup and the cup and whatever else it was.
I played my first show there with my band in high school. It was like right when it transitioned to the hashtag bar in 2014. But I went to a couple shows, and friends when I was in high school, they played when it was the full cup, and I knew it was the Muddy Cup like early then, like early 2010s. It was still kind of the Muddy Cup, right? And then
Well, it was, I would say I started there about, I don't know, probably 14 or 15 years ago. It was right when I
Yeah.
started my regular job, and we did something called The Vibe, which I ended up also hosting like accidentally, which was so
Oh,
funny.
nice.
Some girl was hosting and bombing, and she was like, Donnie, help me. I was like, you want me to help you? And I ended up hosting the event for like a year and a half after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
So that's
funny.
cool how like the chance meeting, even like when you're at another place of work, and then that meeting, someone came up to you and you asked you about it. So you started hosting that at the Hop Shoppe 5 years ago. So what was the most? Actually, no. So you started rapping. Let's get into that. So before you were hosting, you also do comedy, you do poetry. You said you create and record music, and you were a rapper. So when did you start rapping and creating rap?
Well, it's funny. I have a strong church background too. So like I started, I guess when I was 13, I was trying to write a song for a girl, and it was terrible. It sounded like a 1950s doo-wop song. And then
Nice,
I
nice.
kind of felt inspired, and I started rapping this like kind of Christian thing. And then, back then, it was uncommon to be like a white rapper. When I was 13, there was really nobody. Vanilla Ice, I think, was
Yeah.
like the guy, and I couldn't stand him because I was listening to like real hip hop back
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
And so I was like, I can't rap or whatever. And then I didn't really pick it up till I was in my senior year of high school. I was in chorus 'cause I sing too, and
Nice.
I was in chorus, and I started kind of rapping this like Christmas rap. I wrote, and this girl was like, "You're gonna do that?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." I was like, she was like, "You're gonna do it." And then I ended up meeting this kid who was a producer, and started rapping. And I did my first show in Bedford-Stuyvesant in front of 500 people, which is so crazy. Like it's like my first time rapping in front of a real crowd was 500 people.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I started. And then we kind of took to the streets, and we would go out Friday nights with a huge boombox, which I actually just got gifted one, like one of the old Lasonic boombox. I don't even know what that is, but
No, yeah.
yeah. So I got one of those. But we used to go with the box and just freestyle with guys, and did shows kind of throughout the U.S. kind of as a gospel rapper for many, many years. And
awesome.
and so did the gospel rap thing. I travel rapped in Norway. It was kind of cool. And then I almost got signed by Little Mama's manager, which is kind of crazy. I don't know if anybody knows who Little Mama even is. She did the lip gloss song, My Lip Gloss Be Poppin'. And you don't make that stuff up. Like I would have been like it was Dr. Dre. No, it was the lip gloss girl.
No, yeah.
yeah. And so, my history in hip hop, and it was really I started there.
Yeah.
But I was writing poetry at first too, and before that.
That's awesome. So you got to rap in Norway, and you said your first performance playing hip hop and rap was in Bedford-Stuyvesant. Yeah. What was the name? Is the venue still there? What was the name of the venue you
It was a
performed
big
at?
church out there. A guy by the name of Minister Marty Grace used to run it, and it was so funny because I called him. And I was 18 years old, and I said, hey, we want to sign up for next year. It was called like Gospel Fest or
Yeah.
something. And he goes, why don't you sign up this year? I said, you haven't heard us. He goes, well, the crowd will let you know, and which is really encouraging when you're a beginning rapper, like. And we went on first. which is also crazy. I don't know, any performer in the stands going on first is kind of like, even at the open mic, like people don't want to put their name one. Like, so that's why I tell people I'm the opening act. Don't worry, But so we
Yeah.
went on first, rapping in front of 500 people in Bed-Stuy. And I don't know, it was Minister Marty Grace. I don't know if he's still around. And I could probably find out where it is. But yeah, and we got up, we rapped, and the crowd went bananas. And I was,
That's amazing.
yeah, and they were like, I had 2 songs written. They're like, if you want to come back later, I was like, I've done everything I can do. And back then I couldn't freestyle, so I didn't know what I was going to do.
So do you remember that night? What was going through your head right before you got on stage for the first time at that venue in Bed-Stuy?
I think I just kind of shut off. Like I was just like, I just got to do this thing. I got
Yeah, you had to cross that line.
Yeah, I just had to do it. You had to jump in. You kind of jump in head first. You always get those like butterflies, that kind of adrenaline rush. No matter when anything big happens, if you're gonna get into a fight, if you're gonna like, you get those flutteries, and I got that for a while, and then you kind of rehearsed it 100 times, did it, and people were cheering at the right moments. And I didn't even think the song was that good. I think back now, I'm like, man, I was terrible back then, but they loved it,
It sounds fun. Like if you had the charisma and you had the confidence on stage, I feel like that carries the show too. That's fun.
I didn't find my confidence till later in life either, though. I was a very shy, introverted kid, which people don't even think about when they see me now, because I don't really care anymore.
Yeah.
You be yourself now. You have that confidence, but I wasn't always there. So that was kind of the beginning of me kind of finding myself and letting myself loose a little bit, and it was well accepted.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I was probably about 17 or 18 that someone told me I even had talent. I never knew I was even talented. Like,
Yeah.
I wrote some poetry and I gave it to this pastor, and he was like, "You're a talented young man." I said, "I am." I thought everybody wrote poetry. Like I didn't know anything.
That's awesome. So, but you said even before that first performance, you had a choral background. And you perform at church. So that first time, that performance in Bed-Stuy, that wasn't the first time you were on stage. You started before that.
Well, it's a different kind of dynamic. When I sang in like the worship team, the youth group,
Gotcha.
and things like that. So it's a different dynamic, because when you're on a worship team, you're performing for what you consider an audience of one. Really, you're performing your ideas. I'm singing for God and to God. I'm not thinking about being flashy and performing for a group. The first time I performed, I was 18, but I didn't think of it as performance. Even now, I'm a little shy with my singing voice, because I got to change the dynamic of a performing singer, not someone doing something out of an act of worship, or singing to someone that I feel is bigger than even me,
Yeah.
bigger than, there are people bigger than me, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of transition, but that's why it was a different kind of shift.
Yeah.
I led the worship team in my school too. I went to a Christian school on Staten Island that's no longer here. So I started with the singing, but I didn't think of myself as a singer. I just thought of myself as a worship leader. I never kind of put the two together, if that makes sense.
No, I know what you're saying, 100%. So then even that took you to Norway. Once you started performing, what was that like? You got to tour around Europe, or where did you get to go?
So I got to go to Norway. I was rapping for a while, and I rapped within the States. I rapped in Florida a few times, and was in California for a little bit, for like a week, and in Texas, and on the end of so I, this, believe it or not, like a missions team that kind of knew what I did. I was on that team. It was called the Timothy Project. One of my mentors ran it, Pastor Lenny Weston, may he rest in peace, one of the most influential people in my life, actually. And I went with him. We went out to we went to Norway together, and it was a crazy thing, because you think, okay, I'm going to this foreign place. I've never been outside of the United States, unless you count like the United Nations. Like I stepped off the soil, And so here I am in Norway, and I would get up and rap, and you'd think I was a celebrity, because like the crowds, I was in Oslo, which looks like the village, but like the streets are made of cobblestone, like crazy. And I'm rapping, and there's all artists in the streets playing music. And our team was very talented. They played all kinds but they didn't respond to our team that was playing music. The minute I started rapping, I guess it was the draw of the American like hip hop. Like I got these huge crowds in Norway, and it was insane. It was like wow. And then I would stop rapping, and they would just kind of dissipate.
They would disperse.
Yeah. So
when was that? Was this when, like the 2000s, 90s?
It was 2000, because I know. I mean, I hate to remember. I was supposed to go the year after, and then 9/11 happened. And so it was probably around two. It was the summer of 2000. Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. And that first gig in Bed-Stuy, when was that? In the 90s?
I graduated high school in 1997, yeah.
Oh, nice. So were you born and raised in Staten Island?
No, I'm a Brooklyn kid.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I 30 years in Brooklyn, but I have deep roots here.
Yeah.
So I went to high school out here in the 10th grade, and then just really got to know everybody on Staten Island while kind of knowing everybody in Brooklyn. So I feel like, I mean, I'm proudly adopted by Staten Island. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's, I feel I was adopted by Staten Island at a young age, you know,
Yeah.
so.
No, that's awesome. So even when you were younger, going all the way back, what made you gravitate toward hip hop? What was it about that music and then you starting to rap when you were younger? What made you gravitate toward it?
Well, I think anybody starts listening to their parents' music, you have no choice. Like, you're stuck in the house with them. You don't know
Yeah.
anything else exists. So
Yeah.
I grew up listening to Motown and the Beatles and still love it. That to this day is still my favorite music. I don't
Yeah.
think music like that'll ever be made again. It was my cousin Erica who was kind of like too cool for her time at the time, you know, like at the time I think she met Will Smith when he was like the guy, you know, and then she was listening to gangster hip hop, which was funny to me. Like, you know, why are we listening to gangster hip hop? I'm in Bensonhurst, you're in Bay Ridge. You know what I mean? Like, but then I started listening, you know, like, I think it was the Scenario in 1992, which was you know, Tribe Called Quest and Leaders of a New School. First time I heard Busta Rhymes rap, I just changed my life. It was like it went from that kind of, yeah, I bought a sandwich I bought, to something that actually like flowed and had character and personality. And I was like, I want to listen, I want to be part of this. Like, and we used to hop the train in Brooklyn with a little like Panasonic boombox and just, you know, all have our parts for the song. And, you know, it became something you did with your friends. It was fun. And so my introduction to hip hop was kind of there, like someone playing the Scenario. And I'm like, what is this? You know? And
Yeah.
I heard Busta Rhymes come out and go, "Gow, row," like a dungeon dragon. I was like, this is insane. I wanted like, and you know, so that was kind of my introduction there to hip hop, was right there. And then started listening to Naughty by Nature and Wu-Tang Clan. And we didn't even know what Wu-Tang Clan was. We thought they were like a gang, like the Bloods and the Crips. Like, we didn't know. Like, we were talking about them, like, yeah, there's a gang in Staten Island called the Wu-Tang Clan. You know, we were so clueless as kids, and then found, you know, so, but yeah, that's where it kind of started. Definitely, it was definitely Tribe Called Quest in a Scenario that changed my whole dynamic. And my cousin Erica just continuously kind of, listen to this, listen to that, you know.
So your cousin Erica was like the tastemaker at the beginning. She put you on to a lot of great artists, and she gave you some records and albums that then you listened to and you fell in love with some of them.
Yeah, you know, she kind of was ahead of the curve. Like, she had tattoos before anybody had tattoos. She had a piercing between her ears. She was like one of like three people in the borough that had it. Like, she was always that, you know, that kind of always kind of a little bit ahead of the trend. Like, before, she was the before it was cool person, but definitely not a hipster. You know what I mean? Like, she was definitely, she was cool. Like, she was pop culture. I got a lot of that from her. Like,
Yeah.
so.
What did you use to buy your records? Now you have streaming. It's like I sometimes wish I was able to. 'Cause I wish that I probably could. Like CDs were still popular, cassettes. Where was your favorite place to buy records growing up?
I mean, nobody beats the Wiz, man. That was the place. Like, nobody beats the Wiz. Like, that was the big public place. It was the Wiz. And then up the block, there's a place called the Record Factory, and that was more like underground stuff. So if you wanted to get what was popular, or back then you could buy a single on a cassette. I don't even know if you know about
No,
that.
yeah.
So how old are you? I don't know.
I'm 24.
24. Okay. Well, I'm 42. Like, I'm
Yeah.
almost twice your age. So sometimes people don't know. So you used to go and
No,
you'd
yeah.
you'd buy a single, and on one side would be the hit, and then you'd have the B side that would either be the instrumental or some other random
I
song.
love that though, because when I see that, like, yeah, they give you kind of, and they give you a bang for your buck. You're getting a couple of extra additions to the main single, and it's cool. You go behind the scenes. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I remember I did that with Black Sheep had you know, engine number, and I remember getting that, and then but yeah, yeah, we go to the Wiz, and then we go to the Record Factory when it was like underground, or if you wanted to get something they recorded in Europe, you know, it's
Yeah.
like you'd go there and find stuff. I remember. You know, the way I discovered hardcore, like, I like hardcore music too, was this kid in my youth group was like, I don't want to listen to POD, man. That's not hardcore. I was like, what the heck is hardcore music? And I found this group called Living Sacrifice, which was a Christian hardcore band, which nobody even knew existed, but me, I guess now, you know, like, and they had all this random weird stuff, and it was cool. So you got to kind of experience what everybody else wasn't in one store, and had more of a personal experience because the people were more like, oh, check this out, check. And they had kind of the rack bins you could kind of go through. And then there was the Wiz that was a commercial place. You know what I mean? So I kind of, that was the beginning of my music.
That's awesome. So that was the beginning of your journey in a way.
Yeah, finding
Finding
music.
those records,
Yeah.
finding the music that way.
Or you go on the radio, you pop a tape in and wait for the commercials and hit pause. You know what I mean? And so you went and taped the commercials, and you know, you made your own little mixtapes off the radio. You know?
What do you remember your first concert that you attended as a kid? Who was it?
My first concert was my first major concert was this. It was a Christian venue. It was called Creation, and it was like it sounds like an oxymoron, but it's like a Christian Woodstock. You know what I mean? That's like an oxymoron. Like, yeah, you'd be Christian and do lots of drugs and have sex all day, right? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really. But they had like all the major artists that were recording artists at that time, and that was my first major concert because we slept there for 3 days and watched concerts all day. You
And
know?
this was in the boroughs, or?
No, this was in I think Pennsylvania. I believe it was in Pennsylvania, and I went to that twice. I went when I was like 13, and I went when I was like 18 or 19.
Oh, nice, nice. So that's pretty cool. Getting more of like the backstory of where all this creative process has started. So when did you then transition and get into hosting events and comedy?
Well, I guess that's two different questions. Like hosting.
You're right. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah,
We could
no,
talk.
no. I mean, no. I just want to
Comedy.
answer it. You know, like so.
Let's start first though, comedy. So
Okay.
yeah, after you're talking about when you first started with those performances, you got to play outside the US. That sounds amazing. That would be a dream, being able to travel like even anywhere in Europe, Oslo, Norway. I heard Norway's a beautiful country.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So that's around like early 2000s, summer 2000 you told me. All right, cool. So what about then around that time moving forward? Were you involved with comedy at all?
I've always been the funny guy in the group. Like, always been the guy. Yo, you got to hang out with Donny. You're like, you got to. I used to have people ask me to make fun of them. It was fun. I was like, why you want me to make funny? Like, they would like roast me. Like, before roast me was a meme. I mean, it was like, okay.
I used to have roast battles in school too. I feel like,
Yeah.
but you were all best friends and you were ragging on each other, but it wasn't meant to be taken seriously. But we would like laugh our fucking asses off,
100%.
and that was the best of times. Like no one got too upset, and then you just moved on. But we would roast the shit out of each other.
100%. Well, I joke about it. I said, you know, we were broke. We had nothing else to do. You know what I mean? So if we had $1, we'd buy some cookies, like a quarter drink, and just hang out and tell your mama jokes. It was me and this kid Milky, and you know, in the playground, we would just go at it. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
So it starts there, and I think that's where my wit comes from. Like, I'm always quick, you know, with something. You know, and I get people tell me all the time, "No, you're so quick." I was like, well, you kind of have to be, like, you know, because you're getting ragged on by your boys, and then you get, you know, and then you either got to take the feed or step up. So it starts there, but when I started kind of doing comedy, it almost happened by accident because I was doing I was freestyling for a bunch of kids in Sunset Park. I did community outreach, and we used to do this thing called Children of the City, and I was rapping for these kids. And you know, I used to do back then what I call a word game now. I'd be like, come on, guys, give me a word, or I just freestyle, and then I would tell jokes in between. And this guy said, "Man, you're really funny. Would you do comedy at my church in Long Island?" I was like, "You want me to come out to Long Island?" Like, I guess I was in Sunset Park. So I'll come out. And I did some improv comedy. I called somebody on a stage and wrote a song about the guy that they called on the stage. I think he was a bodybuilder. He's a fitness guy that they called up. His name was Mike. And I remember because it was the first time I ever did it. And I felt like, and I never did that before. I was like, I think I could do this. And I got him up and I sang some really silly song about all the details he gave me. Told a few jokes that I wrote down. And then after that, I ended up doing like a really deep. So I went from getting the people like laughing, and then I did a deep poem, and everybody started crying. It was a very interesting dynamic. But that was the first time I think I really did, like, I was billed as a comedian. You know what I mean? Like, and then didn't really do it much. And then when I started the Hop Shop 5 years ago, I opened it with comedy, and I felt comedy is like everybody wants to laugh. Everybody. It's the ultimate, you know, bridge gapper. It opens up the door. It kind of brings down people's inhibitions a bit. Because it's palatable. Like, not everybody wants you to be deep. As a poet, you can't just go up to people and be like, the flowers and the ocean. Like, people can be like, get away from me.
Everyone is down to laugh.
Everybody wants to laugh.
It's an escape for a couple of minutes. Yeah.
And it opens up the door to do everything else. Like, people are more open to you when you make them laugh. So I think it's something I've always done because my passion is always people. It's not like my passion isn't music or comedy, it's people. The things that reach people are music and comedy and poetry. And, you know, it makes the things that we do, you know, like presentable, you know, something that, you know, I think a lot of artists hide in plain sight that way. You know, it's like, this is stuff that you wouldn't really want to listen to me. You'd probably think I was complaining or whiny, but now I'm up here making it creative and artistic. And now you want to hear me because you're starting to now relate to it. And I think
Your
comedy,
delivery, yeah, it's all about the delivery.
it's all
yeah.
about the delivery. It's all
And
about
palatable. You're right. Yeah, it makes
it's
it
the
palatable.
package. Yeah, it's the package you put it in. You know, it's the flavor of life, right? It's like the salt to the bland dish. Like, it's if I
Yeah.
tell you, hey man, you know, my girl broke up with me, you're like, oh, that's terrible. But if I rap about it, now you're like, I remember when I broke up with my girl, man. I'm gonna listen to this. You know, now I always say that like even songs become related. Like, I never knew Phil Collins' "Take a Look at Me Now" until I went through a breakup. And I was like, I don't know why I love this song. It's like because you went through a breakup. Now
It's
You
based on, yeah, exactly. That's amazing with music or comedy. I know, like, different parts of your life, these certain pieces of art, when the context changes based on your life, you digest it differently and it hits you like a truck in a different way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so doing comedy on a stage, I always, even when because I preached for years too, like I always kind of incorporated comedic essence to the things I did because I mean, it's really who I am. Like, I'm not much of a writer when it comes to comedy. And this year I'm going to change that a lot because for a lot of reasons. But, most of the time it's just coming to me. And so, because life is everything. It's sad, it's happy, it's hurtful, it's boring. So, that fun, happy, I always say if not for God and laughter, I'd be dead. You know what I mean? Like that's my life right there. And so you always want to give to people what kind of changed you too. I mean, as a kid, I would watch Eddie Murphy Raw and Delirious, which I shouldn't have. Like, and I tell people it makes sense. If you see me perform, it makes sense. I grew up in the church and watching Eddie Murphy. It makes complete sense. You know what I mean? And so my parents at 8 years old would be like let Eddie Murphy babysit me. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so I could quote Raw. If I watch Raw right now, I could quote every single line to Raw. And so I've always had that funny side. For a long story longer, finally did it in Long Island. And then when I came to the table, people started identifying me as a comedian. And I said, I always tell people I don't know what I do, but I do it well. Like, and so I guess I was like, all right, I guess today I'm a comedian. That's how you met me. But if you met me as a rapper, I'm a rapper. You may have met me as a dad, then I'm a dad. You kind of become all those things, So.
The word thing you said, yeah, you've done that at table, and that's a great icebreaker. That gets everyone loose, I feel. Where like you shout out a word, you get the audience participating, and yeah, it kind of livens it up. That was always fun. I seen you do that, yeah, and that's a pretty awesome act. That gets the shit going. That's pretty cool.
Well, because you're now you're part of the show, like I'm
Yeah,
saying, and it's all. I mean, to a degree, it's a flex too because kids now don't really freestyle. You go into a cipher and it's like their best 16, and they come
yeah.
in and I'm used to guys coming in with something and having to respond to what they're telling me in a battle kind of
The
way.
improvisation, yeah.
So that's where, that comes. So when they give me a word and I'm creating a story around that word, it's like, it's like wow, especially if you haven't seen it before. And I look more like Santa Claus than I look like a hip hop artist, you know what I mean? Or one of the Sons of Anarchy, which is kind of
Great
contradictory.
show.
Yes.
That was a great show. So, in terms of your creative process, would you say you're definitely more comfortable with improvisation compared to really writing down, trying to have it calculated?
Well, comfortability is a funny word. I think what we're comfortable with doesn't create greatness. So I am more comfortable just being myself. Like who
That
isn't?
is a great
Right.
point. Yeah, the best results come out of from being out of your comfort zone.
I think, I always say, do you want it, do you want the truth or do you want to be comfortable? Sometimes the truth is not comfortability, right? So I do my best stuff when I write, but my wife will tell me like I write over people's heads because she goes like, if you were writing for a textbook, this would be great, but people got to understand it, So I think my best stuff does come out, but I'm more comfortable to answer the question just kind of riffing with the crowd and interacting with the crowd, and I could always do that. Like if I have nothing else. The beauty about writing something is I don't. Then you're prepared. Like I go in there kind of like I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm ready. And
That sounds more exciting. It sounds like I'm gonna roll with the punches and whatever happens, happens.
it is exciting, and it takes time to
It's more exhilarating, it feels.
sometimes, but I do believe this is going to be a year. This year coming up, I have a lot of plans for this year, and so part of that is kind of packaging what I do so I could present it, and people can go back to something they enjoyed. I
Mhm.
freestyle, you heard it, and it's done. I do an improvisational poem, or I do some jokes that that are hysterical that I forget like right away, and
Mhm.
I don't. So I can never go back to that. I want to create things that people can go back to that they related to, that touch them, or if it made them laugh, or if it made them cry, or if it is something they related to, or something they just enjoy, they can go back and
Yeah.
kind of get that. So you kind of have to learn how to bottle and I hate to use the word sell, but you do. You got to learn to kind of bottle and sell what you do. You got to because
Yeah.
people want more of it. Like I was surprised that people come to the table just to see me. And then I realized sometimes, and I use that so other people could be seen. Like
Yeah.
I was done with performing like for 7 years before the table. I was
But it's
done.
fun. If it's fun, if it's
Yeah,
fun and entertaining, yeah, it draws people in.
and
It's all
that's
about the energy.
And then what I love doing with that is going, hey, yeah, this is Sean is Miltrick, man. Check him out. Like what he does. I mean, he makes music, he does pocket, and I make my business to show everybody else off because I did
Yeah.
it for a while. I mean, like a lot of the things people want to do, like I did. Like, not that I made millions of dollars doing it, but I enjoyed myself. I got to rap in front of people and do things that people dream of. That's great. Now check out these young people doing it. Like I'm not trying to. I've been to too many places where like the older generations are bitter toward the younger generation, and they don't like we're supposed to be mentoring them. I'm not in competition with anybody. Like I want you guys to do it. It was this year where I got a real sense of, for me, I say it comes from God. A lot of my life is centered around God, apparently, and I felt like this sense of you got to do something. And then when I felt that, all of a sudden, all these doors opened up. Like people were coming to me in in crazy places. Like I was sitting in Z2 out here, and the waitress was singing. I said, "Oh, I do an open mic." She sings. She's like, "Stop it, stop." And I was like, "But you can sing." And I was with Mike, we're pretty good friends, and she calls over the manager and she goes, he does events. He goes, "You do? How would you want to do something here?" And I go, "What?" I go, "You don't even know what I do." He goes, "We have 3 places you can do events anytime you want to." And I went, "But you don't know what I do." And it's funny because
It's all about that moment, the spontaneity. That's what I love about you. Never know what's going to happen.
And that's kind of how my life is. When I feel led by God or whatever you call it, your gut, or for me, when I feel that leading it, doors open. Like I go, "I want to do music." I have 3 studios going, "Let's record you." I have a whole band. I have a whole band right now to do music, and I have nothing written. And they're like, "We're doing music for you, man." And it's like, so that's the cool thing. So, but as far as where I think this is the answer to this question is where did I start comedy? It's so funny we're here, right? But yeah,
it's all good. It's all good. We're chilling.
But yeah, but it's all part of the creativity. Those are the things. I guess it's coming from that answer of what people want to hear and what people will respond to, instead of just whatever it is, preaching at people or being political with people, or like now people will listen a little because there's something. It's not talking at people, it's giving people a chance to kind of process it. And I think we make that mistake as a society of just kind of talking at people and forcing. And then, you only preach to your own choir, and then they cheer you on, and then no one changes because we're all just pointing and speaking at people, and I think music and comedy gives us a different dynamic. Okay, well, now you can listen and then do with it what you want, like whether I'm joking about, now I'm not a political comedian by any means, I make a couple jokes about things, but it makes people go, okay, and then they understand, and then you start finding out where a lot of comedy comes from,
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people don't. But most comedians came from like these really broken, messed up backgrounds.
Yeah.
And because you're trying to make sense and find joy in that, and that's a big part of my journey too.
Yeah.
I came from a very crazy household.
You're telling your own story.
Yeah, and then making people laugh because I know what it's like to be depressed and broken and messed up. My dad was an addict. So when you sit back, you go, okay, like I don't want any kid to ever feel like this. I don't want any person to ever feel like they're not accepted, they're not loved, they're not important, that their voice isn't important. And I realized that when I put my voice forth, people get encouraged by it. And so something I didn't want to do, now I want to do because I realize people are getting inspired. Like every Sunday night, someone comes to me and they go, "Man, you have no idea what you did for me." I was like, "What did I do?" No, man, I've had people cry because I made them laugh. It's weird. It's like, this was not my goal. Like, "You have no idea how great my day was today because I laughed." And I'm like, "Oh my, wow." Like you realize but then you realize where you were when you developed this, first almost like a reflex and a defense mechanism to life, and then you learn to kind of hone it and tame it and use it to really bring joy. Some people use it to bring attention to themselves, and good on them. Like to me, it's like, wow, you laughed. I'll be a comedian if I know your day was better. And you hear people go, "I needed this. I needed that, man. I really need." And then the same. I thought poetry, like it wasn't reaching anybody. And one day I had a guy come to me at the bar. He goes, "Yo, my whole life is different, man. You don't know when you read those 3 poems that you ded." And I was like, I didn't even think anybody was listening. You know what I mean? Like, it was just something I wrote.
You never know who you might connect with. That's the best.
And in his case, it connected him back to like his roots spiritually. And it was like that deep. And I was like, I was just kind of doing a poem, man. So it's all those things are awesome. And that's why I guess it all comes to that. And I found a place as a comedian because I see what an impact it has on people. And hosting, which was the second part of that, people tend to like my personality, so they're like, "Hey man,
you are a good host." Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, you too, man. Thank you for hosting this thing.
No, of course. Thank you for coming on. Yeah. But you were saying, yeah.
But people tend to go, "Hey, Donny, would you do this? People like you. You're approachable." And the host job, there's a difference between like a performer and a host, and which people don't really get is that as a host, I'm trying to feature people. I'm trying to make people. I'm bragging about you, not about me as a host. I'm not talking about if I'm a host, I'm like, I'm the greatest MC, or there's nobody funnier than me. Like, then where does anybody have room to be, right? So I think being a host is again, it goes back to my church days where I would put together these events that nobody was doing. We had an underground gospel hip hop thing that we did. Nobody was doing that. We called it the fire escape. And then laughing later on, someone coming to me and recognizing me in a bar and going, "Yo, Dimension." I was like, "Who the heck is calling me by my rap name from 1997?" You know what I mean? Like, and so the hosting. People kind of saw me fit to be a host. It's something that I kind of fell into because it was like people will listen to Donny. He gets people's attention because a lot of people think anybody can host. You really can't, and it's because you have to you have to be the personality. You have to connect everything and try to make sense of something, especially at an open mic. Like where you have, especially our open mic is ridiculous because we'll have somebody could be on the radio tomorrow. Then you have someone that's trying something out, and you have to connect those things and make both people feel as important.
Bridge that gap.
This person's developing, but this person's like radio ready, and you just kind of but you try to elevate this person and show this person to remain humble too. Like, don't think you're big. You were there once, And so it's learning to be. You got to be respected too to be a host, And I have that community wise. So when I stand up, people listen, and I'm able to tie everything together. And I think, because of the community work, because of my personality, I think it's something I fell into, and then even realized I was a host, like constantly. Can you do this? And like I said, being at the Muddy Cup, the girl going, "You need to save me right now," and just taking over her event, 3 acts in, and going, "Okay, I guess
You were ready to go off the cuff. Yeah, that's a big part of it.
But I didn't know I was. You know what I mean? Like I didn't. I was very insecure up till I was about 19, so I didn't even know I could do anything. I was very timid. I'd shake and stutter on a microphone. You know what I mean? And so. I remember being 20 and being given a youth group out here, and I was coming from Brooklyn on the bus, and I was like, and that's a whole crazy story. I ended up there, but it was like a spur of the moment thing. It was like, this basically the youth leader there did some really horrible things with the youth and got into a fist fight, wanted to get crazy. Sorry, and I ran into him on the ferry on my way to Queens to rap at some venue, and I said, "You tell your dad they have a youth pastor," and they were like. I was like, why did I just tell him that? And then there I was at Sunrise Church, being the youth pastor for 3 years. I didn't even go to that place. And so I think life kind of teaches you to freestyle, even if you're not doing it with lyrics or, because you're given all these crazy scenarios and then you got to react and respond. It doesn't always come out as give me a word and it rhymes. It's not always that pretty, but I think a lot of my life is kind of freestyled. I think life prepared me to kind of do that. So I think being a host and being called on the spot, like you said, comes from like, well, I'm used to doing that, in every kind of way. I mean, I got kicked out at 19 for no reason as a kid and had to find a place to live and make a life for myself. It's like, okay, like you start learning to improvise.
And you could use those experiences as fuel, it sounds like, as well.
But then again, sometimes you miss. I remember being 19 and learning how to do my laundry off the back of the container because I didn't know I had no structure. So I was like this giant waterfall, but sometimes you got to kind of reel it in and contain it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's crazy. You said how like up until 19 you felt a certain way about yourself, but then it gradually changed. It sounds like I've talked with so many people too. They think they can't do something performing, public speaking, but it's like I remember I played my first show with a band. I was 16. I was a singer and guitarist, and I was a horrible vocalist or singer when I started too. I'm not saying I'm the best or any better, but I was so proud of myself because at least I crossed that line, and you never know what that may have led to.
Right.
I feel like so many people, that same thing, like we don't know what any of us have. None of us may be born with doing a certain activity or career, but if you cross a certain threshold, you never know where it may lead.
Right.
And even with you, it said, like, with hosting, yeah, it's harder than people think, I feel. And even you have to be a great and confident public speaker. You are a great public speaker. And would you say that growing up, your experiences with preaching or church and then performing, has that influenced your public speaking capabilities?
It had to. I mean, because again, like I said, what describes me the best? I was watching Eddie Murphy, which in my opinion did 2 of the best comedy specials that were ever made.
You said Raw and Delirious was that was a turning point for you.
Huge influence. I wanted to be a comedian because of him. But then I was going to church and, hearing some dynamic speakers and some incredible, and they wwere funny, but they were also talking about something. They were talking about your soul too. It's like, so, you really, so it comes from both, I think. But my parents they were also, it was such a dynamic because my parents were horrible with their words. Like, I mean? Like their words destroyed us. And then I would have hope, I would laugh at this and then go to church and be told I'm somebody, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I think that elevated me and it made me want to. But the first time I spoke in front of a youth group, I really started through it. Like I was like this, like, shaking, 17 years old. And they asked me to do it like on the spot. you know, and I was like, okay, you know, and everything's kind of on the spot.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it comes, I think that a large influence comes from the church, and a large influence comes from comedy. Those two elements have always driven me, and I think you kind of tend to absorb what you want, you know, like I want that, you know, it's like you are what you eat. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
this is, you know, what enters your ear. Like, one of the principles in the Bible is like faith comes by hearing, right? Hearing the word of God. I think what we hear begins to create who we are, whether you're destroyed as a kid by your parents' words or you had a mentor that told you, no, you are somebody. Like, words are creative in so many ways. And I think hearing those preachings continuously made me go, you know what, I'd like to make people feel hope like that. And you start looking up to these people, you know?
Yeah, no. So moving forward, we talked before we went on air, going into the new year in 2022, you're looking to write things down more, preparation of your different acts and the different artistic endeavors you're involved with. You want to do music, comedy. Going into the new year, what do you have planned with the music, the comedy, and we've been talking about recording an album, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, I'm kind of done with this year. I think a lot of people are, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and
What a year.
yeah. I'm pushing like food off my plate at this point. I'm like, I don't want to do anything. And people are like, one more show, man. I'm like, no. I'm like, I don't want. So
And there's nothing wrong with recharging too. You need that a little bit.
and that's, you know, and that's really it. You know, you got to kind of sharpen your axe. So you're just hacking away at things, you know? And so next year, I plan on taking like January and actually from now, you know, starting now, not like New Year, New Me stuff, just kind of like now that I know I'm done with every show, and I'm gonna start creating a catalog of just everything. You know,
Yeah.
like I get invited to things and I turn them down constantly. Like, everybody wants me to come do this comedy show in Jersey, and I'm like, I can't, man. I just can't. You know what I
The
mean?
power
Because-
of saying no. I've read so many books over the last couple of years. I didn't know this when I was younger. That's just as powerful, being able to say no and turn some things down, because yeah, if you spread yourself too thin, that could be detrimental as well.
Yeah, I just started, guys. It's funny. I just kind of entered this world of like podcasts, like even being part of one. It's funny because I just started listening to like Joe Rogan just to see what the hype was about.
You tell me, is this the first or the second podcast you ever been
this
on?
is the first podcast I've ever been on. I've been
That's
interviewed-
awesome.
Yeah,
Hey, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
You all part of it. You hear first, this guy. So
Yeah.
I can't say when I get big, I'm big enough, right? But but yeah, this is my first podcast. But I was listening to Rogan interview this comedian Ron White, and you know, this guy I think is very funny. And you know, you start listening. I was listening to, I forgot why I started talking about the podcast actually, but anyway, I remember what I drew from it is that, you know, Ron White started at 45. That's what it was. 45, he got famous, and Rodney Dangerfield got famous in his 40s. And
Yeah.
you know, and you start going, I mean, these guys are millionaires, and these
Yeah,
guys,
Rodney Dangerfield, he was huge in the 80s. Yeah, he was
he was like a plumber or
that
something.
was like he was at the top back then.
And he made the way for everybody. You know, like he featured like these guys that nobody even knew about, you know,
Yeah.
and Seinfeld did that too. And, you know, and that's kind of my goal, like at this age to go, okay, I know. And I was talking with somebody that I happen to mentor, and I said, you know, I got to start doing it. He goes, yeah, but then people will see you doing it and follow, as opposed to me just kind of taking these young artists under my wing and telling them, they're like, but when they see you doing it, they're going to know what to do because you're doing it. And I was like, it makes sense. It made me want to do it more, you know. And so now it's, you know, I'm 42. Sometimes I go, does anybody want to hear a 42-year-old rapper? But we live in a different time now too.
Totally different time. Why not? And there is no, I feel like that's harmful. There is no age where you have to stop pursuing whatever you want to pursue, you know?
But you know,
Especially now more than ever, because you have, everything's changed. And with technology, social media, there's so many more ways
No,
to
I mean,
connect.
I just got to rap
Start a
battle.
business.
I got to rap battle the right person and have somebody yell world star and I'm famous. You know what I mean?
You never know what can happen.
Yeah, but and I'm not doing it for fame, but I am doing it for a degree of notoriety because it helps me pave the way for others. And that's all.
Yeah.
I'm more,
building a platform in a way.
I'm more passionate about that than being the guy. Like, I don't ever need to be the guy. Like, if nobody ever knows, like, one of my objectives before I die is to start a Staten Island Renaissance, like to start something out here where there's a birth of culture. And there's places like the place we're in right now that facilitate. We're here in Hub 17 and they facilitate that. But my objective is to start just breaking ground everywhere. I want people in the city to go, there's this place called Staten Island. We got to go there. Because nobody's heard of, you know, who would even know? And everybody thinks, and that's what happens. You become, like, I think of Staten Island as the underground of the five boroughs.
100%. I was just going to say, I feel like Staten Island is, it works as a pro and a con sometimes. Like, it is under the radar with certain things, the venues, the community, like the entrepreneurial community, artistic, everything. Like, yeah, it's a little under the radar, which there's so much great things under the scene, burgeoning under the scene here.
And that's what I wanted. I want to be part of, just bringing up that well, of whatever, of riches that is here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and I've been part of kind of 2 generations, or maybe even, 3 generations of performers on Staten Island. And the ones before were not open to talking to the younger ones. They used to come into the mic.
Why do you think that is? Because you even met. Why do you think that is?
I think it has to do with their personal experience. People express out of their own hurt, their own experience, um, and unfortunately, I think one of the most unfortunate things is when people think all they are is a musician, and they've wrapped their whole essence and being into being, and now they're old and they're bitter because they didn't go anywhere. Like now me, I didn't do anything crazy in music, but I'm fine. I have a beautiful family. I have wonderful friends. I have people who love me. Like I've never said. When I was really young and insecure, there was a time where like I fed off and I was getting attention from girls and stuff. But then you got to grow up at some point. I think certain people are so disconnected from themselves and wrap themselves in this persona of music. And really, you have to define your music. Your music can't define you. And so I think a lot of those guys are bitter. They're closed off. Because something didn't pan out and they forgot that they were a person besides the music. Like people can love you outside of you being able to hit a note or play a guitar. Because I think the greatest performers of all time, we've never even heard. They're in their basement playing. No one's ever heard them. Better singers than me or you are singing somewhere and totally petrified to do it. And they're better than anybody that's been on the radio. Like talent doesn't really make you. It's a gift. To me, talent's a gift from God. Like that's the gift. Who are you? What are you going to put behind it? I think that generation got so bitter because they were wrapped up in it. And they probably had their reasons personally, but I think that's why they're closed off, because they want to be the one who shines. Difference between me is like if you shine brighter than me, I'm happy. And I don't need the credit for it either. The world's now a better place and my son gets to live in it. If it's one person, then that's great. But not everybody has that attitude. Some people want to be that guy. I got to be the guy. And I don't think it's the way to be. And I think that's what I was dealing with, And I would, people would come in and be like, all right, young man, and like pat me on the back. And I'd be like, all right, dude, do your thing. You know what I mean? And I'm, and then,
Try and patronize you.
yeah. And then I go, but to me, it doesn't, I don't have ego like that. I mean, I'm not like, all right, let me show you what I do now. Let me show you that the crowd loves. I'm not that guy. I've never been. I get responses like that. Like I've rap battled people at the table. It's funny, but I always make it funny and give the guy a hug afterwards and tell him you didn't know what I do. It's fine. I'd never do it. One of the guys, I call him my son at the table. He's my son. I met him. We rap battled the first day he came. He's young 19-year-old. Thought he was going to battle the old man, and he was like, I didn't know, man. I didn't know. And and then he's like, I call him my son now. It's not about ego for me. It was like, okay, now you.
About like community.
It's more than anything because you're part of it. Like, the minute you detach yourself and make yourself higher than anybody else, you miss out on the whole. I don't want to be I want to be, and I think that's what happens. And then they say, we built this community. I was like, yeah, but no one knows who you are because you didn't reach out to anybody. You wanted everybody to fund you and fuel you, but you didn't support anybody. Like, why would anybody support you?
Collaboration is important. And what you mentioned before, that is a great point of view to have. I guess also with numerous industries, music industry, it's competitive. A lot of things are. Maybe that's what it is, but who knows? But what you mentioned before, that is a great point. Yeah, and what you mentioned too, it's like, that community aspect. It just sounds like a great point of view. Collaboration is important too.
But the funny thing about this competition that people miss out on is...
I'm saying maybe people feel that way.
Oh, no, and it's completely competitive. I create an environment at the mic where it's not. That's my objective.
No,
but it's
sure.
completely competitive. But the problem, what people don't realize is you start small. You have to build an audience. And if you're going to if you're going to get signed by a label now, which I don't even care. I think it's stupid to be signed by a label now, but it's a whole other talk. If you're going to be signed, you have to show people. So first you got to be in a bar and then draw a crowd. Even if you suck, it doesn't matter. If 50 people come to see you, you're going to be in different bars because 50 people can.
That's a currency. Yeah. You're bringing people in for whatever your act may be. Yeah, that's leverage. That's important.
Yeah, I have a friend that's played Gotham Comedy Club numerous times, and he says, Donnie, I'm a terrible comedian. Terrible, but I bring 60 people every time I go. And I'm like, so you get to do Gotham. You know what I mean? Like, but now how do you do that and be separate from the community? How do you get 60 people to come to your show and you're not connected? So it's counterintuitive, even in your competition, not to connect with your community. And so
That is powerful. Yeah, if you connect with that audience, like, hey, how's it going? Like, see maybe what their story is because they're supporting you or whatever it may be. Yeah, you never know where that may lead. Connecting with them, seeing what's up.
and that's what I'm trying. And I try to put into these young people, like, you have to. The reason why I get paid to do an open mic, which is unheard of, like, people don't get paid to do open mics, is because I bring people and people like me. And, so I've been able to do something I love and actually get some kind of monetization for it because people come, and that's wonderful. Now I tell these artists, you got to start reaching out, get on your social media and put up a picture of you and your dog so people feel like they're talking to a person. They're connecting to a person. Get up and sing a little ditty on YouTube, which costs you nothing, so people connect with you. And they think they're just going to be great singers or really cute and make it. And it doesn't work. You need your community. And now, like, I would have killed when I was a kid to have Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok.
Imagine, right? Yeah.
I was one of the only people on MySpace telling people I had a show. Like, you know what I mean? And that was a big deal. Like that, I remember I playing Santa somewhere and I was like, I'm gonna be Santa. And like 50, 60 people showed up to Barnes and Noble. I was playing Santa. My friends came dressed as Santa, 3 of them, and confused the kids. It was hysterical. But
Do you think you grew up with both? Do you think that people were better off without social media back in the day, or they're better off with it now?
people are artists. People themselves, I think, are not better off because of social media. I think artists have a better platform, and that's two different questions for me. Like, I don't think people are better off because we've lost the point of contact with people. And I feel like we're getting, and especially with things like COVID now, everybody's getting so far apart and disconnected. I still need to talk to a person. I don't even like talking on the phone, and that's an old technology. That's like Graham Bell technology, right? Like
It is. It's not the same as being in person and connecting.
I
Yeah.
love connecting with people. I love sitting down with people I call the table because my whole thing is about sitting around somewhere and everybody having a place. And that's where the best conversations and jokes. And we've always had the best times around the table. I didn't want to make it this, display. I wanted to make it more a place where you feel comfortable and you can be who you are, right? I think social media makes everybody become like this persona. And you're competitive with people that aren't even who they say they are on social media. It's like, man, look, he put up this thing, and it's like, yeah, he put up $1,500, but he's going to pay rent with it, or someone told him to deliver that somewhere. That's why he's laying out money on the table, or she got 13 filters, or she has 1 million followers because she has cleavage. You don't have that kind of cleavage. I mean, like, don't compete with her. You know what I mean? Like, don't. So, I think social media has made people worse, but it could be used. It could be used for good.
For artists, yeah, it depends on how you use it. It's an amazing platform if used correctly.
One of the greatest quotes I heard was, I was watching like MSNBC, which I don't watch often. I don't want people to think I'm that smart. I don't watch MSNBC. I usually watch junk on Netflix, but happened to be watching like one of these lockup shows, and then it was the commercial, and the guy said, every time we create a new technology, we find a way to have sex with it. I was like, holy crap. I was like, that's pretty profound. But it's the truth. We kind of misuse what we have. We can reach the whole world now. What are we doing? Oh, I'm an influencer. Like that's not really what we should be doing. It's like, I call it social mediocrity. You know what I mean? Like, it's so bland, and like, I use it like it's almost like, I really don't want to talk to you on the phone or in person, but I want to make sure you're alive. Like, that's how I use it most of the time. But I've also learned, because I've learned how to use social media, and I laugh at these kids. I'm still learning, and they grew up in it. I've had people perform from Australia, Ireland, all over the 5 boroughs. I probably should have led with the 5 boroughs and ended on Australia, but like, that would have never knew I existed, but because they went on my little page and I put the right hashtag on, right? So it could be used for good or evil. It's what people are using it for. And that's why I love that quote. It's like, the minute we create a new technology, we find a way to have sex with it. But in all reality, that same thing you can go on WebMD and find out how to suture a wound, or you could go on the internet and wound 100
That
people.
accessibility, yeah. Even though we're technically, I guess, 2 different generations, I'm still learning as well with new social media platforms. I'm still trying to learn. Let's say there's a new audio app, Clubhouse or TikTok, or even now with creators, you have more subscription-based platforms where you can make a living, like, let's say, Patreon. So yeah, it's rapidly evolving, and I feel like, yeah, if it's up to you based on what you want, you always got to be on the ball and keep learning too. It always evolves, so I guess you have to as well.
Well, but the world is open for artists. So that's when I like, and I joke about this all the time. I go, if I punch in Michael Jackson's Thriller and I want to see it, I see 7 girls from the Philippines singing it before I see Michael Jackson sing it. Why? Because they know what they're doing. They know that if they keep putting up their videos, they're going to get a following.
And the SEO too, the search engine optimization. I guess you never know.
Yeah,
This is
all
what
these algorithms. So that's the thing. It's like, but then I look at these kids, I'm like, you're super talented. Like, I don't want to sing a cover. It's like, sing the cover. People will then know who you are, and then you can sing whatever you want.
That's a great point too. I never used to wanna. I just didn't do it for whatever reason. But now I'm realizing I'm learning so much more about songwriting, technique, and just composition if I'm practicing covers, and I'm realizing that's also a great way to reach new people. If I just post some covers on, let's say, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, who knows where that may lead, and then you could bring them into, let's say, what your influences may be, and then maybe you put them on to your original music, and you never know if that creates a new fan, a new member of your community, and it leads to someone, a fan who could be a lifelong fan. I wanted to ask you this. As a entertainer and artist, do you think it's better to be a jack of all trades or to focus on one or two things specifically and get real strong with that?
Okay, it depends on the person. Some people can spin a lot of plates. They have that ability. They have that skill. They could be a jack of all, and sometimes a master of some. But then I used to say this. I wish I wanted to be a doctor because then I could study to be a doctor and be a doctor. And that's a wonderful trade, man. That's a wonderful thing. You're affecting the world. I don't want to be a doctor, so it depends on the person. Not everybody has the ability to do a bunch. You know what I mean? Like, not everybody can be a jack of all trades. Some people are just gifted. Like you could see, like somebody like, you look at Stevie Wonder. You know what I mean? Like Stevie Wonder, his voice is incredible. So incredible that everybody tries to mimic it even till now. That's a gift. He built on that and did whatever he wanted with it. So he could be a jack of all. Stevie Wonder has rapped, he's sang, he's done reggae, he does whatever he wants. He can do that. He plays several instruments and he's blind. Like, it's crazy. That's a guy that's gifted enough to keep those plates in the air. I think you got to be honest with yourself and what you have. Like people like, but I could do anything. You really can't. That's kind of this generation. You can't do anything. Know what you can do and do it well. You could try anything, but not everybody's going to be able to sing. Some people are just not singers. Some people are just not, Now, granted, we live studio life now. Like, I think of like Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears. Christina Aguilera blows Britney Spears out of the water with her voice. Has the most incredible singing voice. Nowhere near as many hits as Britney, who really can't sing. She's auto-tuned and he knew how to market her and make her cute, right? So it also depends on your aim. My mind always goes a lot deeper, and you said go deep with it. So my whole thing is it better to be a jack of all trades or a master of one? That's dependent upon the person. There's people that are meant and have the ability to build empires. There's like Quincy Jones. Anybody that's watching this right now, or even if you haven't seen it, watch Quincy. Watch that on Netflix. And you see everything he did. Like, he was a jazz musician, played with the greats, and then produced everybody and broke all these barriers. He found a way to do it. He also had a schizophrenic mother, and you find that a lot of it comes from this ability to have to create because of where you come from. But that's Quincy Jones. Not everybody's Quincy Jones. I'm not Quincy Jones. I don't think you are, and that's fine. But what do you do? And you got to find your lane and do it. Sometimes you can do more, and sometimes you can't. I think it's a big mistake telling people they can do anything. Because again, I can't, so I'm going to jump in a rocket ship now and be an astronaut. I can do anything I want. No, you can't. You got to have that skill set or learn it. Now, people can learn various skill sets, but you're also utilizing time doing that. I don't do my own sound. I pay someone to do my sound, because for me to sit and learn sound takes away from what I do. So I have Julia, who does my sound, I don't learn instruments now, but she plays guitar, piano, and drums. So when I need that, I say, this is what you do. I'm going to let you do that.
Competency. I think when you talk about, based on what you were saying,
It is competency.
Nothing wrong with trying new things. There's nothing wrong with failing. You learn so much when you fall on your face and fail. I've done it numerous times. I'm sure numerous creatives have. But if you're going to choose to move forward with something and you want to learn it, I think competency does matter. And
you got to pick a focus, even if you're a jack of all trades, and this is what I'm going into now, and this is, I'll be that life lesson from here on out. I always tell people I mentor, I said, if you had an extension cord and it was knotted and you pulled all the cords at once, what would happen? It would get worse, right? Yeah, it would get worse. What do you have to do? You got to take it out one piece at a time so it could function for what it is. If you have all these things that you're working out in your mind, you got to pick one and have a focus. So even if I'm kind of a jack of all trades, I'm a triple threat, but I don't dance. Like, that ain't part of my triple, right? Like, but I have to pick one and focus. So when I'm sitting and now I'm going, okay, today I'm writing comedy, I have to access that part of my brain, my soul, my experience for comedy and focus on that, because I think as a creative, I'm like an ADD creative, like, because I have a bunch of things in my bag of tricks. But you sit there and you cultivate and craft that and you move on and then you do the next thing.
Yeah.
So both have their place.
Both have their place, yeah, and there's pros and cons.
But usually it's like, look at Childish Gambino, like Donald Glover, right? Donald Glover wrote for 30 Rock, was on Community as an actor, is a comedian and a successful musician, rapper, and singer, right? But he did one at a time. He wasn't being Childish Gambino when he was writing for 30 Rock. He was Donald Glover. He was Donald Glover, the comedian, right? Like, and that goes back to what I said before, like, people meet you in different ways. Like, some people will tell people, Donnie, you're a great rapper, and not even know I'm funny. Some people go, Donnie, you changed my life. You preached to me. You got to hear this guy. He'll help change your life. And some people will go, he's the funniest guy you ever meet, because you do all those things, but you have to pick a focus. So what's better? The one that's more focused and the one that you're gifted in is the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
Your passions and my passions are completely different. I feel God gave us passion because you were meant to do what you're doing, and I was meant to do what I'm doing. I don't have a desire to be a tech geek, like a technical person. Like, some people, like, that's all they want to do. They're disconnected from people. They just want to fix people. You know what I mean? Like, and do their sound, and that's fine. Not that every person that does tech is not connected to people, but that's their lane.
Yeah, that's their lane. One last thing before then we move on and wrap it up. We talked before how some people are given talent in whatever field it may be. They're given talent from when they're born. Do you think that hard work can beat talent if someone really focuses in on it enough?
I think hard work and talent are two different things. Now, hard work is a choice. It's not talent is a gift. If I give you, it's like me giving you Beats headphones and you go, and I worked for this. No, you didn't. I gave you a gift. You have it. You did nothing for it. Here's your gift. There are gifted people, and then there are hard workers. Hard workers can acquire abilities over time. You could train your voice to sing better. You can. And you could, and be a good singer. Then you got to know what to do with what you worked hard with for. Some people are not great singers, but they're excellent marketers. So I'm not a great singer, but I'm doing better than the girl that sings better, because I'm better at marketing. And so hard work is not a talent, it's a choice. You know what I mean? Like, so those are two different things. So, like I said, I've met people like, how are you not singing just every word? like hello, how come you don't sing hello? You sing that well. There's people that sing and stop a room. And then there are people that put in the hard work, and people will see them and not see the other person. Hard work can get you into places that talent can't. I think that I heard the expression along the way. Your gift could take you to a place where your character can't carry you, right? And so you could be gifted and end up in these arenas and not have the character to carry you. That's what the hard work is. Your character, it's your name, it's what you build. So you have to have both, because these gifted people burn bright and they die quick, right?
Yeah.
So you need both. The Bible says faith without works is dead. So even having faith, like, I believe God's going to do it, something so much bigger than me, still requires you to apply that thing. And so hard work is not a talent. Hard work is really what matters when you have whatever you have. And some people do so much more with less because of hard work.
Last but not least, what is next for you going into the new year? What do you want to promote, and let us know?
This coming year, what I want to promote, I'm going to do what I continue to do. My objective is to get all these talented people I'm surrounded by and that have supported what I do out there, and feature them and promote them the way I've done and I've continued to do, and create spaces for them where they can do what they do. And honestly, there's going to be a little more of me this year being out there, and they go hand in hand. It's going to be a little more of me performing and doing things that I've written and poured my heart into, and putting in that hard work we're talking about, and putting that out there for people to see, and also bringing people along and being, hey, this person's opening for me while I'm doing, because of a lot of the connections I have doors that are open where people will, their first performances will be like mine in front of 300 people, so I can go, all right, I'm doing this thing and you've been by me all along, and so you're coming with me. So my objective this year is to create content and to put it out there and not rush it. By March, I want to have some solid stuff out, but I want to take this next few months to do, what I'm doing at the table, maybe do a couple of shows, but really start working on all the things that are inside me that are not getting out, and then put that out there for people to see. And I have a lot of spaces. I've made so many connections over these past few years of people like, anytime you want to come, just come do it. And just all these venues that I'm just like, they're like, Donny, just come and do whatever you want to do. I'm like, well, that's the dream, isn't it? Like, to be able to perform wherever you want. And I'm grateful that my reputation precedes me, and now I just can fill spaces, and I want to have something of quality to bring there. And that's my objective for this year, to bring quality content, start singing again and training my voice again, and start writing down some real deep lyrics, and come together with a real solid comedy set that I could bring with me everywhere. And when those opportunities open, I'm like, I got you. I'm not sitting there trying to like pull words out of the air and hope it's good. And most of the time it works out, not be good, but be excellent. That's my goal. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. That's really awesome. And I'm excited to see where that all goes. And I'm sure it's going to be great. That's really exciting. So right now you have the weekly open mic every Sunday, tabletop open mic
It's the table. Yeah.
the table open mic at Hop Shoppe in Staten Island. Where else do you host events? What can you let us know? Where can we find you? Like, what other events are you hosting?
I only host the one. The reason why I host one event on Staten Island is it's kind of a loyalty to a place I've been for 5 years. I mean, the Hop Shoppe has been gracious enough to just facilitate whatever I do. And they've even told me, like, you could ask me for anything I've ever told you no. I have that relationship there. So I tend to host. I get offers to host everywhere, but I host at a home base because you got to take care of home. They're the people that took care of you. So as a host, as a steady host anywhere, that's pretty much what I do. Any place connected with that business, I'll tend to, if I do something regular, will be there because of their loyalty. And I think people don't know the definition of that anymore. So I do that. I will be hosting at different venues throughout Staten Island, which I'll be putting on all my social media. So if you follow Table Open Mic, if you follow me at Donny, Donny, Teachout, Donny Teachout, which is my real last name. Like, people think I made up Teachout, right? But you follow me there, I'll be publishing everything I do, and it'll be it'll be all artists. And, I'm going to put up that I was on the show on those sites. Everything I do, I put out there so people could find it, so they could find you. And they could, they could see what's going on. But I think you're going to see me all over Staten Island next year. I really do. I have big, hopes, and I'm saying it out into the air, so I actually do it, right? Like
The manifestation, yeah.
Yeah, and
you're going to be hosting also outside of Staten Island. Any hosting events in, let's say, Brooklyn or Manhattan, or?
My focus really right now is Staten Island. And
Gotcha.
I want in my own prayers and seeking out what I want, I really got this phrase of a Staten Island Renaissance. And that's what I want to see.
That's awesome.
I want to see culture burst out. I want to see it. There's so much like unmined gems on Staten Island, and so many diamonds in the rough that nobody even know exist, that my goal is to go, okay, let's bring you out. Let's do this. And that's why I spend a lot of time mentoring young people, because I'm like, you need to do this because you're going to regret it. You can't get back your time ever. Like, you can make money every day. There will always even be opportunity. Just do it now. Just do it now while you can build it, develop it, learn from us, and go out and do it. So my objective is to bring it all to the surface, to tell people that places like the Hop Shoppe, Hub 17, you exist. The girl that makes the coloring book, the girl Tanya, that makes her coloring book, let her know, like, my friend's a cook and a baker. I want you to know about him. These things are happening. These things are local. This is us. I sat with too many musicians here telling me, oh, but I got to go to the city. I was like, why? If you want to change the world, change your block first, and then change the world. If you have no effect in your immediate area, how are you going to go change Manhattan? You're going to go into Manhattan? No, Staten Island needs something. Be it here, and so I don't really want to branch too far out, and that's a conscious decision. I could literally send out emails and go, I'm going to bring 50 people, but to me, it's not worth anything. It's just, my goal is not to do shows, it's to actually leave a footprint somewhere,
Yeah.
And so even if people don't know it's my footprint, if they come back and they think Bigfoot was there, that's great. And they give all the credit to a mythical beast, as long as I know I impacted the world. And that's my objective this year, is to impact Staten Island and start breaking up the ground so we can plant some great seeds that can generationally manifest artistically. And, so there's some depth, and it's here, but it needs to be exposed. And I think I just want to shine light on what's already here, and then be part of that light highlight, exposing everybody here and showing this is what my friends do. This is what these people do. This is, you got poets like Thomas Fucaloro, incredible poet. He does things all over Staten Island. I want people to see what he does. I'm like, people need to see you. Like,
Yeah.
So my objective for this whole year is really to highlight Staten Island.
And that's a great point. Yeah, the highlight. That's amazing. I'm really excited for what's to come. It sounds like great mindset, great head on your shoulders, and the plan. It's really exciting to see it all come to fruition. Yeah. No, it's really exciting. It's going to be a great new year. But Donny, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, for coming on Miltrick Media. Had a great conversation and sharing just everything. It's great to learn more about you and your journey, and I'm really excited for what's to come. But this has been another episode of Miltrick Media. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it, and we will see you all soon.